Today's episode of Off the Timeline is titled, What If Tennessee Hired Lou Holtz and Accidentally Erased Its Own National Title? Every Tennessee fan has imagined it. What if the Volunteers had gotten even better? What if one of the greatest coaches of the era had arrived in Knoxville years before Tennessee reached its peak? What if Tennessee hired Lou Holtz instead of Notre Dame? At first, it sounds like the easiest what if in college football history. Lou Holtz was a winner, Tennessee was a sleeping giant. Put them together and watch the trophies pile up. Right? Maybe. But sometimes the best move a program can make is the one it never makes. Because in this alternate universe, Tennessee gets everything it wants and loses the one thing it can never replace, the 1998 national championship. But first, let's set the table for the point of divergence. It's January 1984. Tennessee football is searching for direction. The Volunteers have history, fans, and resources. What they don't have is consistency. Meanwhile, Lou Holtz is one of the hottest coaching names in America. He's charismatic, he's controversial, he's impossible to ignore. In our timeline, Holtz eventually ends up at Notre Dame. In this timeline, Tennessee makes its move first. The Volunteers offer the job. Holtz says yes, and college football changes immediately. And that sets the table for Tennessee Awakens. The first thing Holtz brings isn't wins, it's belief. Recruiting improves almost overnight. National media starts paying attention. Tennessee suddenly feels larger than life. The Volunteers aren't just competing for SEC titles anymore, they're competing for headlines. By 1986, Tennessee is a legitimate national contender. By 1987, Knoxville is becoming one of the sport's most important destinations. And that's when the ripple effects begin, because every recruit Tennessee lands is a recruit somebody else loses. Every game Tennessee wins changes another program's future, including one very famous program in Indiana. And that sets the table for the Notre Dame ripple effect. Notre Dame still hires a coach. They're still Notre Dame. They have the money, they have the prestige. They still have one of the most recognizable brands in sports. So forget the lazy version of the story where Notre Dame disappears. That never happens. Instead, Notre Dame becomes something stranger, a great program that's always missing one final piece. Good enough to matter, but never quite good enough to dominate. Notre Dame remains nationally relevant, but they never become the late 80s juggernaut we remember. And that changes one of the largest moments in college football history. The 1988 season never happens the way we know it. No magical run, no national championship, no Lou Holtz standing on top of the sport. Instead, the national title picture becomes chaos. Programs like Miami and Florida State suddenly find more room at the top. The sport becomes more fragmented, and Tennessee keeps climbing. And that sets the table for the final boss, Steve Spurrier. By the early 90s, the Volunteers have become exactly what fans dreamed they could be: consistent, powerful, respected, and dangerous. The SEC is entering a new era, and Tennessee is positioned to own it. For a moment, it looks like this is the perfect timeline. Then Steve Spurrier arrives, because every great story needs a villain. For Tennessee fans, that villain wore orange and blue. Steve Spurrier walks into Florida and immediately changes the sport. In our timeline, Spurrier had to go up against Phillip Fulmer. In this timeline, it's Lou Holtz. And honestly, that's even better because these two coaches cannot be more different. Spurrier loves adding chaos in every rivalry. Holtz loves creating pressure and expectations. Spurrier wants style points while Holtz wants control. The collision is inevitable. What follows is one of the greatest rivalries college football never got. Holtz versus Spurrier, Tennessee versus Florida. Every year feels enormous. Every game feels personal. Every recruiting battle feels like a national event. The SEC becomes college football's center of gravity years earlier than expected, and Tennessee keeps winning. 9 wins, 10 wins, 11 wins, conference titles, top 5 finishes, major bowl appearances. The Volunteers become one of the most consistently successful programs in America, which creates a strange problem because nobody notices what's missing yet. And that sets the table for the Phillip Fulmer problem. Because while Lou Holtz is building Tennessee into a powerhouse, another story is quietly disappearing. A coach named Phillip Fulmer. In our timeline, Fulmer becomes one of the most important figures in Tennessee history. His recruiting, his relationships, his staff, his culture, his quarterback development, all of it matters, not immediately, Not obviously, but eventually. And in this universe, that foundation never forms. He, and it ends up that either Fulmer leaves, maybe he takes another job, maybe he becomes successful somewhere else. Whatever happens, Tennessee's future starts drifting away from the one fans remember. Nobody realizes it, not in 1990 or 1992 or 1994, because Tennessee is still winning, maybe even more than before, which makes the trap impossible to see. And that sets the table for the absence of 1998. The mid 90s arrive, and Tennessee looks incredible. They're a machine, year after year, top 10 after top 10. The program feels invincible. And if you stop the story right here, every Tennessee fan would easily choose this timeline without hesitation. But history isn't judged halfway through. History is judged by what gets retained, and what survives is 1998. Let's talk about the season. The season, the one every Tennessee fan knows by heart, the national championship, the year everything came together. The problem is that magical seasons are fragile. People remember the stars, they remember the big plays, but what they don't remember are the thousands of tiny decisions that ultimately made those seasons possible. Recruiting classes, assistant coaches, relationships, player development, culture, momentum, and luck. All of it matters. Change enough pieces, and eventually the entire structure collapses. And that's exactly what happens here. There is no identical 1998 Tennessee. There can't be. Too many decisions changed years earlier. Too many recruits chose different schools. Too many coaches followed different paths. Too many relationships never formed. The team might still be good. Most likely they're very good, getting either 10 to 11 wins, maybe even an SEC title, but the national championship season never arrives. Not because Tennessee got worse, but because Tennessee became different. And that sets the table for who really won. And this is the twist. The Volunteers spent 15 years building something stronger, only to accidentally erase the greatest season in school history. Think about that. In this timeline, Tennessee has more top 10 finishes, more conference titles, more national relevance, consistency, and prestige. But they lose the one thing fans still celebrate decades later: one championship, one unforgettable season, one perfect memory. That's what makes alternate history so fascinating. Success is not always linear. Getting better doesn't always mean ended up happier. Sometimes the road that looks smarter on paper leads somewhere colder, more efficient, more successful, but less magical. Meanwhile, Notre Dame keeps searching. The Irish remain relevant. They win games, they produce stars, they fill stadiums. But there's always a feeling that something slipped away in 1984. Not disaster, not collapse, just possibility. A version of history that never arrived. A version wearing green instead of orange. So who won this trade? That's the impossible question. Did Tennessee win because it became a powerhouse years earlier? Did Notre Dame lose because it never found its legendary coach? Or did Tennessee lose because it traded away the one championship season that defined a generation? There's no right answer, which is why people would still be arguing about it today. Maybe that's the lesson. College football history isn't built from championships alone. It's built from timing, coincidences, from decisions that seem small in the moment. One coaching hire, one phone call, one signature, one choice. In 1984, Tennessee thought it was hiring Lou Holtz. In reality, it was choosing between two futures. One future brought steady greatness, the other brought 1998. And in this universe, Tennessee never gets both, because the greatest irony in college football history might be this: the Volunteers finally become everything they wanted to be, and that's exactly why they never became what they were destined to be. And if you enjoyed this college football alternate history deep dive, hit like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next timeline.